Reading from the Acts of the Apostles today, it shows that there is already corruption in the church. There's already sin, there's already scandal in the church right there at the beginning of the church's history. You know, and I heard a commentary several years ago. If you're looking for a church that is without scandal, without corruption, without greed, without sinful leaders, then look somewhere else. Because even from the time of Jesus, there has been corrupt clergy. And I don't mean that to excuse anybody, but, you know, Judas, before Jesus was crucified, what was his great sin? He was stealing money from the poor. He was stealing money out of the treasury bag. Jesus still named him apostle. Jesus still gave him the sacred priesthood. Jesus still gave him the Eucharist. And after he received the first Eucharist, he goes and sells Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. That's corruption right there. There's corruption right here in the Acts of the Apostles at the very beginning of the church. And let me really spell it out because I don't know that it's clear to us what this first reading entails. So you have all of these Jewish people, the Hebrew Jewish people, who are converting to Christianity. They're becoming members of the way. And as they're becoming members of the way, they're turning into something different. They're proclaiming a new gospel. They're proclaiming the gospel of Jesus, the gospel of freedom, the gospel of, they're proclaiming the freedom that Jesus has given, the freedom from sin, the freedom from being slaves to the law. They're preaching this new thing. But at the same time they're preaching this new thing, there's these other group of Jews, the Hellenists, that are also becoming members of the way. Now the Hellenists are the Jews who are infiltrated by Greek, I use that word intentionally, infiltrated by Greek influence, Greek philosophy, Greek language, Greek culture. They're called Hellenists after the Greek god Helen. Right? They're these Jewish people who don't speak Hebrew, they speak Greek. They don't think like Hebrews think, they think like Greeks think. They're the Hellenist Jews. And the Hellenists are now becoming members of the way. So you have these two groups of Jews becoming members of the way, the Hebrews and the Greeks, the Hellenists and the former Israelites. And they're becoming members of the way, they're becoming Christians. Well, at the beginning of the church, everything was held in common. When you entered the church, you gave to the apostles, the bishops, everything you have. You would sell your jewelry, or you would give your family, your family jewelry, your family stones, your family gold to the bishops, and they would either use it to make things for the church, or they would sell it and use the money to take care of the poor, the widows, the orphans that were part of the church. Well, you have that reality, and you also have the reality that the Hellenists are being neglected. That no one's taking care of the poor, the widow, and the orphan of the Hellenist. And so there's this complaint that's issued. It says, well, why are our people being neglected, but the Hebrew Christians are being taken care of? And I really want to drive this image in, this reality of what's happening in the early church, because it's gross. You have at the same time Christians being dragged out of their homes and executed in the street. And as Christians are being executed in the street for their faith, other members of the Christian church are standing going, yeah, but we're not going to take care of the Hellenists among us because they speak a different language. They come from a different worldview. They're different than us. We don't want to take care of them. They don't speak Hebrew. They don't think like we Hebrews think. So we're not going to give them their fair share. We're not going to take care of them. That's not a corruption that's unique to that time in the church, is it? That's a corruption that has existed in every century of the church. It's a corruption that exists today, and it's gross, isn't it? To say that we're Christian, we believe that Jesus came to save all. We believe that the blood of the Lamb spilled redeems each of us. But, we're not going to take care of these people because they come from the wrong country. They speak the wrong language. They belong to the wrong political class. Their skin color is the wrong color, or whatever the prejudice may be. Prejudice has no space in the church. It has no right to be part of the church. And yet so oftentimes it is. But it's beautiful, I think, how the apostles handle this situation. Because they look around, they say, okay, there's discrimination. And instead of just getting up there and Bible thumping and, threatening the Christians to get in line or to act right, what do? They say, okay, we don't want anyone to be neglected. So we're going to appoint men from every group within the church. And these men are going to be called diakonoi, or deacons, or servants, or slaves. And these servants, these deacons, what they're going to do is they're going to be in charge of making sure that everyone in the church is taken care of. No matter if they're poor or rich, no matter if they're married or widowed, no matter if they're sick or healthy, or if they speak Greek or Hebrew, if they're from here or from there, if they're from Samaria, if they're from the Gentile nations, if they're from Jerusalem. It does not matter. We're going to have these men, these diakonoi, taking care of all these people. And the church says, that's a great idea. And the church is completely in unison. It's unanimous. And they appoint these men that are listed to go and take care of the poor among the church. In other words, the apostles say, there's a complaint in the church, and we're going to call on the body of Christ to fix what's wrong with the body of Christ. Right? We're going to elevate the body of Christ to deal with it. And the same has to be true today. That the laity have to come alive. The laity have to come alive. There are many problems in the church. Because why? Well, the church is filled with sinners. Every single member of this church is a sinner. I'm a sinner. I go to confession every week. You're sinners. I know you're sinners. I sit in the confessional. I listen to it, right? We're all sinners. Let's do something together about what's lacking in the church. Instead of sitting back and saying, oh, well, that group of people, they're too long gone. Well, that group of people, they're awful sinners, and we're not going to relate with them. We're not going to communicate with them. We're not going to share a meal with this person because that's sin. That's just awful. And whatever category comes to your mind, maybe that's the people that you should be reaching out to announce the gospel to them, and to invite them into a better communion at the altar, to a more complete conversion of heart. But that the laity has to come alive. And so often people are obsessed with Vatican II and what Vatican II did for the liturgy. Put that aside. Let the clerics deal with the liturgy. That's my job. But what did Vatican II really say to the laity? There's a universal call to holiness. That you were called to be a saint by your baptism. In your baptism, God gave you the vocation to become a saint. God gave you that mission in your life to pursue holiness beyond your imagination. Vatican II named you, and it's not new, it's always been, we just emphasize it now, named you an active member of the body of Christ. Get up and work. Do something. How often I get emails or phone calls or people in my office, and they say, well, Father, you should be doing this and this and this and this. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, then maybe the day should be 80 hours long. Because there's no way I can do everything that everyone has asked of me to do. Or, well, the church needs to provide this Bible study and this kind of a meal and this sort of outreach and this care of the poor and this sort of thing to the sick. And the church needs to do this, 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 and this. And well, what did the apostles say? The last time in the Acts of the Apostles that someone came and said, you all need to be taking care of the poor. The apostles said, okay, we'll appoint some of you to do it in our name and on our behalf. Right? How oftentimes people say, well, Father, you need a group for these people. And my response is, you're right. Go do it. But then nothing gets done. And then there's complaining and there's bitter talk in the background about how Father doesn't care about this group of people. And nothing can be farther from the truth. Nothing can be farther from the truth. Because I deeply and profoundly care and love each and every individual one of you. But I am one man. And the church has to be alive. There's a problem in the church, not in St. Pius, but in general in the church, that the faith has become a commodity. Right? The faith has become something that we consume. You think about when you leave Mass, and people are talking about the liturgy that they experience. What sorts of things are said in the vestibule or in the car? Well, the music was kind of off today. I didn't really like it. The music was really good today. I felt lifted by it. The homily, Father's too aggressive. Father's not aggressive enough. The homily wasn't very clear. The homily was too clear. The homily was pointed. I didn't really understand it. I didn't get anything out of it. Well, I wish Father would do the liturgy this way or that way, or I like the way he does it. What's the problem? What's the problem with all those things I just listed, the good and the bad things I just listed? The problem is there's no mention of God. There's no mention of God. What are we talking about? We're talking about what I enjoy or what I don't enjoy. We're talking about what I want or what I don't want. We're talking about what I think I need or the way that things, or the way I think things should be done. What are we talking about? We're talking about ourselves. Let me be very clear. Don't come here to get anything. I'm not here to get anything. The word worship means to offer sacrifice. It means to offer my life. It means to give my very being to the person, the object of my worship. The liturgy is not the reason that we Catholics don't call Mass a service, because a service is something done for the person receiving it. Right? I get my car serviced. My oil change is a service for me. This is a liturgy because it's the work of God done by God's people. That you're here to do a job. You're here to work. You're here to worship. You're here to accomplish something. You are here to do, not to receive. And when we make the liturgy, when we make the faith a commodity, something that I get, it creates a lot of fighting. Because we're all going to disagree about how to be entertained. We're all going to disagree about the music that should be sung. We're all going to disagree about the particularities of the liturgy. But when we're here and we're here to give and to sacrifice and to worship, all of that stuff falls by the wayside because it becomes unimportant. When we leave the liturgy, when we leave the Mass, when we leave this building, we should be speaking about the ways that we heard God, the ways that we encountered God, the ways that we became aware of God's sacred presence in us. If we speak about the music, we should be saying that the music was chosen in such a way that I heard God speaking to me. I heard the scriptures echoed through Lydia's voice. I heard the scriptures echoed from the readings, from the lector's voice to the cantor's voice to the priest's voice. I encountered God today because there was a message in the homily that struck me to the heart, and I needed to hear it, and I feel God moving there. I saw God on the altar, and I was moved with a more profound love for the Eucharist than I've ever experienced in my life. I saw God today because there was a woman who had 5 children by herself, and I saw someone else, instead of judging her, reach over and help her with the chaos. I saw God today because there was a little old lady struggling to get into the church, and someone else held a young man held the door for her. I saw God today because there were some altar servers who were giving up being, sleeping in on a Sunday morning here to worship and to work for God. I saw God today because all the people here, instead of just leaving, they stayed and they greeted one another, and I felt the community and the body of Christ joining together. I'm not here to get anything. I'm here to give. I'm here to give my whole being. I'm here to lay down my life for God and His church. If there are needs in the church, and there are many needs in the church, well, you're the church. And together we should be meeting those needs. If there's someone that's suffering in the church, then we're the church. And we should be mending that suffering. We should be lifting that person up and suffering with them. We are the church. If there's something that needs to be done, if there's work that needs to be accomplished, it's on all of us together. Imagine what the church could do if every single member of the church was generous, completely generous, with their time, with their talents, and with their treasures, to lift up the purpose and the mission of the church, to build up the parish to what it's supposed to be. Imagine a church where nobody just waits for the hierarchy to do something, but rolls up their sleeves and joins St. Vincent de Paul, or begins the prayer group that they want to have, or the dinner circle that needs to happen to build a deeper community. Imagine a church that's not concerned with what the music choices are or the way that Father says Mass, but is concerned with helping each other understand how to pray more deeply. Imagine a church that's not embarrassed to say, hey, I'm in need of prayer because I'm sick. Imagine a church that's aware of every illness in the parish so that we can together pray for those people. Imagine a church that's fully alive in Jesus. It's unstoppable. It's incomparable. It is what we were created to be, the mystical body of Christ on earth.